The numbers game. The skies over Jakarta turned black at noon, not from clouds, but from the shadow of the alien fleet. They called themselves the Coalition of Ordered Species. To them, Earth was just a chaotic backwater, rich in resources, tactically positioned, and annoyingly uncooperative. When diplomacy failed, they arrived with a force 100 times our own. Their message broadcast from every hijacked screen. Resistance is irrational. Surrender for assimilation. We didn't answer. We ducked. We ran. We fought. Captain Elise Mora had never led troops. She was an engineer, civil infrastructure, not military. But when the coalition's dreadnought split the sky above her city and the military HQ went dark in its first strike, she became something else. She became necessary. The first days were pure survival. Airstrikes leveled the command centers. Orbital strikes cratered communications arrays. Drones hunted survivors from the skies. Most of Earth's satellites were gone within the first 6 hours. The coalition had crushed planetary defenses with such brutal efficiency, you'd think resistance was impossible. They thought they had won. But humans are strange creatures. We've never been great at impossible. Elise regrouped in the underground maintenance tunnels of South Jakarta's old metro line. With no formal command, she linked with whoever was left, police officers, hackers, even teenagers with drones and spray paint. The coalition focused on military installations. They left the subways and sewers alone. Mistake. Within 48 hours, they had a network. Within 72, a plan. Elise mapped their patrol paths using hijacked security cams. Power grids were repurposed to overload when coalition vehicles approached. She turned a construction site into a minefield, rebar, concrete charges, and scavenged plastic explosives from a ruined depot. The first strike came on day 5. A four-legged coalition walker, 12 feet tall, bristling with energy weapons, stalked through the floodplain looking for stragglers. It stepped into the construction zone. When it triggered the charge, the ground beneath it gave way. It didn't fall, it sank. Right into the unfinished sewage pit. 1 charge didn't kill it. 2 didn't either. But the third charge, planted directly under the central core, shorted out its neural net and fried the entire rig. When the wreckage was dragged underground, the crowd around Elise erupted in cheers. She didn't cheer. She stuttered. They had numbers, firepower, air superiority, but they didn't know the terrain, didn't understand improvisation, didn't know what it meant to fight desperate humans with nothing left but scraps, grit, and rage. Let them keep counting. Elise would do the math a different way. We're not winning, she told her team that night, fingers stained with grease and ash. Not yet. She looked toward the sky, where the dreadnought still hovered. But we're not losing anymore, either. Improvised destruction. The coalition's war doctrine relied on overwhelming force and perfect systems. Their machines were elegant, their tactics clinical. Every move, every strike was calculated. But on Earth, nothing went according to calculation. Captain Elise Mora leaned over a table made from an old door balanced on concrete blocks. Around her, maps marked with grease pencil showed troop movements, drone flight paths, and, most importantly, infrastructure layouts. Sewers, power lines, gas mains. We're not soldiers, she reminded the group. So we stopped pretending to be. We're saboteurs now. They nodded. Electricians, hackers, construction workers, a former chemistry teacher. These were her fighters. Their first major operation began with a blinking street lamp. Coalition patrols used predictable routes. One passed a certain alley in central Jakarta every 2 hours. So Elise's team rerouted city power to overload at a precise moment. An old substation transformer, coaxed into unstable oscillation, exploded as the alien patrol passed under it. The blast didn't kill them all, but the magnetic pulse did worse. It disabled their armor, fried their comms, and left them stumbling like blind giants. The team finished the job with Molotovs and crowbars. From then on, it wasn't about fighting harder. It was about fighting dirtier. A sanitation plant became a death trap. The team rerouted sewage to flood a coalition checkpoint, masking tripwire explosives and luring soldiers into waist-high filth before igniting the gas pockets with Dura-Rig spark triggers. Another group used rusted radio towers to bounce hacked signals into enemy comms. Static, screeches, looped human screams. It drove the coalition's soldiers mad, kept them awake, jittery, off rhythm. But Elise's proudest moment came from an old abandoned mall. Using scaffolding, car batteries, and scrap metal, her team built a rail sled, a makeshift launcher that hurled steel rods at subsonic speeds. One clean shot pierced the engine housing of a coalition personnel carrier. That single shot grounded 3 other vehicles. The aliens couldn't tell if it was a weapon, a trap, or some bizarre Earth phenomenon. So they stopped moving in convoys, which made them easier to ambush. Elise wasn't the only one thinking this way. Resistance cells in Mumbai blew out an alien supply ship using a slingshot and thermite. In Sao Paulo, teenagers hacked a drone swarm using a repurposed gaming console. Across Earth, the same message rang out. We might not have fleets, but we have minds. And we're angry. The coalition responded with fury. Civilians were rounded up. Whole neighborhoods flattened from orbit. Precision gave way to panic. Elise watched their growing desperation with cold clarity. They wanted order, she said, as she rewired a stolen alien sensor into a motion alarm. But this is Earth. We thrive in chaos. A younger fighter beside her frowned. What happens if they adapt to us? Elise smiled grimly. Then we get more creative. Thinking like predators. The coalition had no answer for unpredictability. Their species were evolved for logic, consensus, and strict hierarchies. Victory was calculated, not earned. But humans, we were forged by wild terrain and tooth-and-claw survival. We didn't just fight, we hunted. Captain Elise Mora understood this now. Stop thinking like soldiers, she told the team one rainy night in the jungle outside Bandung. Start thinking like predators. The next operation began with a false surrender. Elise's team used a hijacked coalition distress beacon to broadcast a signal, Earth resistance, requesting asylum. Coordinates attached. A scout ship landed in a clearing surrounded by thick mist. It didn't realize the ground had been soaked in gasoline and lined with copper wire. The mist wasn't natural. It was chemical fog vented from pressurized canisters. The moment the ramp dropped, the clearing ignited. The explosion wasn't the real trap. The real trap was the thermal mirage hidden behind it, a decoy signature of dozens more human fighters waiting in ambush. The coalition sent reinforcements right into an old logging camp where pressure plates were rigged to drop tree trunks like guillotines. None of them came back. Across the region, Elise's tactics evolved. Motion sensor holograms of human refugees lured patrols into minefields. Spoofed broadcasts mimicked alien officers, giving contradictory orders and stalling entire battalions. Speakers hidden in rubble whispered in alien tongues, "You are not safe here. You will not survive the dark." It wasn't just resistance anymore. It was psychological warfare. She even staged a fake execution, stun rounds, theatrical effects, real alien captives watching. Footage was uploaded to the alien network. The message, "You may conquer cities, but we own your nightmares." The turning point came when her team captured a coalition Recon drone intact. They didn't know how it worked. Not entirely, but they didn't need to. What they needed was a delivery system. Using scrap from an old hydroelectric plant, her engineers mounted the drone to a modified generator, fitted with a high-speed coil. The result was primitive, ugly, but effective. They launched it at a low-flying coalition dropship. The drone connected. The ship didn't crash. It simply blinked out of the sky. EMP, internal rupture, maybe both. It didn't matter. The message was clear. We learn fast. We adapt faster. Elise stewed over the wreckage, soaked in rain, hands blistered from rewiring heat coils. "We're not just fighting back," she told his second-in-command. "We're evolving." He nodded toward the tree line, where they'd laid their next ambush. And she looked through the trees, where alien shapes move cautiously, nervously now. They're still trying to understand what we are. She smiled faintly. Let them wonder. The art of the impossible. The coalition's fleet began retreat protocols on day 37. Not because Earth had military parity. It didn't. Not because the resistance had destroyed their warships. They hadn't. But because for the first time in their history, a subjugation campaign was failing. And wise, they didn't understand why. Captain Elise Mora stood on the roof of a half-ruined office tower, watching a coalition dreadnought rise through the clouds. Her breath fogged in the morning chill. Below, her people, technicians, scavengers, fighters, children, moved through the city's scarred streets with purpose. "We didn't outgun them," she said aloud. "No," said Malik, her second-in-command. "We outthought them. They'd used everything Earth had to offer: boiling monsoons, unstable tectonics, obsolete tech the aliens didn't know how to disable. They turned cities into trap-riddled mazes. One cell reprogrammed shipping yard cranes to hurl containers like battering rams. Another rigged commuter trains to run without brakes straight into enemy encampments. What the coalition couldn't grasp, what broke them, was that chaos could be a weapon. They had numbers. Humanity had madness and invention. By day 40, coalition command collapsed. Ships hung in orbit without orders. Ground forces isolated. Entire regiments vanished into jungles, cities, deserts, never heard from again. The final blow came not from a missile or a hacked drone, but a signal. Elise and a group of underground AI programmers have been working for weeks on a deepfake broadcast, fabricated coalition command, delivering retreat orders with perfect vocal and biometric authenticity. The signal was laced with priority-level encryption stolen from a fallen command cruiser. When it hit the coalition comnet, it rippled like a virus. Within an hour, half the remaining ground units began boarding shuttles. By the time true orders arrived, chaos had already turned into full rout. Elise listened to the scrambled alien chatter on a salvaged headset. Mission failure. Tactical collapse. Initiate withdrawal. A cheer broke out around her, but she raised a hand. Not yet. They still needed one final message. She walked to the edge of the rooftop, held a flare gun, and fired. Across the city, colored smoke erupted from rooftops: red, green, blue, yellow. A signal. A warning. "We're still here. We can still hurt you." The last dreadnought pulled out of atmosphere that night, engines glowing like dying suns. It didn't fire a parting shot. It fled. Weeks later, Elise stood at the edge of a reclaimed district in Jakarta, watching children chase drones reprogrammed as toys. Cities were still broken. Lives lost. But Earth had survived. Not by matching alien firepower, but by doing what humans always had: refusing to surrender, refusing to die quiet. Malik walked up beside her. "Outnumbered," he said. She nodded, but never outwitted. He smiled. "So, what do we call this victory?" Elise looked out at the rising sun. "Call it impossible," she said. "And ours."